Thank you. Yeah. Looks familiar.
I know. Oh, bless you.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
love my jacket.
I was looking for a reason. This is the last straw. I definitely did want her concern. Oh.
Paper screens. Where does Rotten usually?
When did she come?
No, this is her stuff. I don't want to sleep. Okay, I have a solid enough thing to keep this on. Yay. So a little bit of stuff. And this is upside down. Yeah, it's upside down. That's it, crying. Oh, yeah. Clearly, this was a choice made by you.
Like, what could this even hold again? Maybe like two, maybe literally like.
Where's my weekend?
Okay, we will continue. We're in the middle of the Mishnah that listed three things. And the three things were: appoint a teacher for yourself, you should acquire a friend for yourself, and the third thing was you should always judge other people favorably. So we're up to the third part, judging other people favorably. What does that mean? First of all, it means as follows. When something happens and someone does something which appears to be negative, there's always two ways to interpret what happened, two ways to think about it. One way, you would think bad of this person, but it might have been something different and you won't think bad of the person. You have the choice. I think that the natural sort of reflex, most people, when they hear about something, wow, this person's so nasty, they're so, such a not nice person. That's without thinking. When you start thinking, you realize there is a possibility that maybe things are a little bit different than they appear. So this is the Torah's opinion, that you should always make an effort to interpret things and explain things in a positive way. You never know, you might be upset at someone and you might be think very, very badly of them. And then when you look into the real story, you find out that that's not what you thought. There's actually a book, if anybody wants entertainment, there's a book which is written by a teacher who teaches, I guess, these kind of classes. And over the years, she collected real, true stories of people that were upset at other people. And on the surface, they had all the right to be upset. And then they found out that the story was not what they thought it was. In fact, the name of the book is the other side of the story. When you find out the other side of the story, you see things are different than what you thought they were. So I want to start with going a little bit into how a person could practice this, judging people favorably. Number one, very often you hear somebody says something or does something. If you don't know everything about it, you might just misinterpret what they said and what they did. And I'll give you a story that happened here in Machon, a very true to life story. It was a perfect example. There was a student that came to the school for the new year, but she came a little bit early, so the dorm was closed. Mrs. Gansberg, who was the dorm mother at the time, arranged for her to stay with a certain family until the door opened up. She was there. Then when it came time to arrange her places to eat for Shabbos, she figured, okay, now this girl knows this family, perfect. And she told her, I can arrange for you to go to this family for Shabbos. And she said, no, I don't want to go there. Please, not there. So obviously, she was there for a week before school started. They must have been very unhappy. And she knows the family, they're really wonderful people. So she asked her, what happened? She didn't want to say what happened. She didn't want to talk about it. Anyway, after a long prying and working hard, she finally got out of her what happened and why she was so upset. She said she heard her husband on the phone talking to someone, and her husband told that person, don't worry about your unwanted guests. I also have unwanted guests. I'll help you get rid of them. And she felt like what? Is that how they talk about me? And I never want to go to this place again. So when she told, now the woman was also upset that she saw that the girl was cold. And why she so cold to me? I was so nice to her, had her in my house. I gave her a place to sleep. I gave her food. I did everything that I could to make her feel comfortable. I have no idea why she's upset. When she told her husband the story, he started laughing, can hardly stop laughing. The husband was an exterminator. And he was talking to somebody who had mice in their house. And he told them, which in America, those who don't know, we call them unwanted guests. They're guests in the house, but they're not wanted. And he said to them, I'll help you get rid of the unwanted guests. I also have unwanted guests. What he was referring to was the mice in the house. Now, she had no idea. So she had all the good reason to be upset at them that they're referring to her as unwanted guests. But here's an example that you might hear something. If you don't really know in what context it was said, you could interpret it in a very negative way or find out the truth that it was nothing negative at all. So that's number one. When you hear something, you have to make sure that what you heard is really that. That's number one. Besides the fact that sometimes the facts aren't even true. Now, there's also another example. Sometimes what you heard is true and the facts are true, but you're missing certain details. If you would have known two more details, you would see it very differently. I'll give you also a real true to life example. You're probably aware that in the early stages of the Hasidic movement, there was a lot of opposition against the Hasidim. And people came out with all sorts of stories. The Hasidim did this and the Hasidim did that. And rabbis heard their testimonies and they came out with all sorts of declarations against the Hasidim. It was a very difficult time. So one time, and this is a true thing recorded in history, where the rabbis came out with a very harsh letter against the Hasidic movement. And the reason was because someone came and he testified that he saw with his own eyes. It was Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av is a day that you're supposed to fast. It's nearly as harsh and serious as Yom Kippur. And you're supposed to fast because the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. But those people who are not serious about Yiddishkeit, they dismiss this fast day. So he testified that he saw with his own eyes on Tisha B'Av, the Hasidim were eating and drinking on Tisha B'Av. Later, when they did the research, they found out it was true. They forgot to add one detail. When that happened, Tisha B'Av came out on Shabbos. When Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos, you're not allowed to fast. You're supposed to eat and drink and fast on Sunday. So here's an example where there's a fact, it's true, there's no mistakes in the facts, but you're missing a little detail. And when you forget this new detail, then what you know is totally, it takes on a different meaning. Here it was violating Torah, and here they're actually observing Torah, just the opposite. But I have to want to make the effort. Sometimes I can't see it. So the Mishnah says, have you done make an effort to judge every person favorably. That's what we need to do.
Sorry, what page?
On page 8 in the booklet. Then the question is, okay, so what if I did all my research, I verified it's true that they did this negative thing and they did it, and I know all the details around it and it's really true. Do I then have the right to judge them not favorably? So the answer is, even then you don't have the right to judge them favorably. Why not? So there's another statement that's found in Pirkei Avos, not here, in another place. And that's number 2 on this list, page 8. Al tadin es chavercha, don't judge another person, asher tagia lemekaymen, until you reach their place. Which means one person can't judge another person unless they're in their place. To understand what that means is very simple. In English, there's an expression also, you can't judge someone unless you're in their shoes, but it's the same idea. What it basically means are, how do you know how you would be under those circumstances? Maybe there was tremendous pressure, they didn't feel well, they haven't eaten for 2 days, or this happens, something else happened, and therefore they reacted in such a negative way. And how do you know how you would have probably reacted the same way? So you have no right to judge this person because you don't know what they were going through. That would be the answer. But then you could say, what if a person says, I know what they were going through, I went through the same thing, and I didn't react the way they reacted. I was able to be calm, I didn't hurt anybody, I didn't scream at anybody, and I went through the same thing that they did. What's the answer to that?
You are you, he is
It sounds like a very simple statement, but it's a very profound statement, and that's what the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya. You are you, and he or she is she, right?
Oh.
Not those words, but that idea.
Everyone is different.
Everyone is different. There's no way that you can say I was in the same situation. Why? Because people are different. Biologically, we're different. Our character traits are different. Our personality are different. The Alter Rebbe goes a step further, even in terms of our neshama, our soul. I know you didn't get too far in Tanya, but I think you got to the part where it talks about every soul is made up of 4 elements: earth, air, fire, and water. And that's what determines our personality. Some people are more fiery people, some people are more earthy people, some more watery people. Each one of these 4 things represent a certain kind of energy. So if you say that this person and this person are in the same situation, one reacted in a very strong way and one reacted in a very calm way. But if I have a fire burning inside me, I'll react differently than you. It's not the same test to you as it is to me.
There's also the saying of like a person who drowns in like a tablespoon of water and a person who drowns in the ocean are just as dead. It's not like one is like it's.
But for some people, we need an ocean to make it happen. But some people, it's a drop of water because they're different. In fact, you have no idea what they've gone through in life up until this day, what kind of difficulties they had, what kind of struggles they had, what they had to deal with. This could have been the last straw that broke the camel's back. And not only that you don't know, you can't know. It's almost impossible to know the inner workings of every single person and what they've experienced in life. In fact, there's a very beautiful thing in Rambam, Maimonides, when he talks about the laws of tshuva. And he says something which everyone probably is familiar with, saw pictures, that Hashem judges us and puts everything on a scale, which means on the scale, there's the right side where all the good deeds go. There's the left side where all the negative deeds go. And then on the scale, we see which outweighs the other. So the Rambam adds something and says as follows. It doesn't go by numbers. It's not if I have 500 good deeds and 300 bad deeds, the good will outweigh the bad. Or if I have 500 bad deeds and 200 good deeds, the bad outweighs the good. He said it's more than just what I did. It's everything that's connected to what I did. And that's something which nobody in the world could make that judgment except for Hashem himself. There could be one good act that a person did that's worth thousands of times more than another negative act. And there could be one negative act that a person did that can outweigh and overrides thousands of good deeds that another person did because of all its ramifications, and especially where is it coming from? What caused me to do this? Under what circumstances? And that's what it means, judge people favorably, that it could be very possible that they're going through something, and because of that, they're acting in such a way. I remember I used to give a class in Manhattan once a week. These are people that I didn't really know well, they just came around once a week. And this woman came to me and said, could you please do me a favor? She was a single mother. She was having trouble with her kid in school. She has nobody to sort of fight for her. If I can call the principal, call the principal, and the principal starts, he wants to throw the kid out of school. And he's telling me that he did this and he did that, and he caused trouble here, and he caused trouble there. And turns out at the end that they found out that this child, first of all, was going through a very, very difficult time at home. Second of all, he was deaf on one ear. So half the time he didn't even hear what he was being told to do. And more things that pile up like that, which basically means the fact that he's acting the way he is, not because he's so rebellious, so bad, there are circumstances in his life that made him act in such a way. And what happens is that when you see that and you become aware of that, instead of feeling anger or hate towards the child, you suddenly start feeling compassion towards the child. So it's a different picture. So that's what it means. Judge people favorably means that you doesn't mean you deny the facts. I know this kid is a wild kid, but your attitude to him, instead of hate, instead of anger, will turn into the opposite, love and compassion. You know, that you realize this child is suffering terribly. I had no idea. I'm always screaming at him. Now I know why he's acting the way he's acting. And then you suddenly feel bad to the child. You can even start crying for the child at where just 2 days ago you were ready to wring his neck. But it has to do with the fact that you realize, again, you're not changing the fact, but you're judging him in a different way completely, judging him in a favorable way. So I guess this is the point. Number one, judge favorably means know the facts. Sometimes, people tell stories, not always is it actually as they tell the story. People exaggerate. People take one word and they make a whole thing out of it, which is not even true. This guy comes around and tells a friend, "I heard that you won the $50 million lottery. I'm so excited for you." And he says, no, that's not what I won. Because it wasn't me, it was my cousin. Second of all, it wasn't a $50 million lottery, it was a free subscription to the Time magazine. Okay. So somebody heard, he won. Oh, you won, he won, this one won. The next one heard that it was $50 million. The other one probably said it was $5 million. At the end, it was just a subscription to the Time magazine. So basically, when you hear something, who says that the facts are true? Even if that's true, in what context did it happen? And even if you know that it happened, you don't know this person, you don't know what they're going through. So if I start thinking that way, I could judge people favorably and not look at them in a bad way, but in a positive way. The Frierdiker Rebbe, previous Rebbe, once said that when he was a child, he asked his father, how come Hashem created us with two eyes? One mouth, one nose, and two eyes. Why did he give us two eyes? So he asked him, if you know the difference between a shin and a sin and the letters of the aleph base. He said, yeah. They both look the same. They both have a dot. But on one of them, the dot is on the right side. The other one, the dot is on the left side. So he said what it means is that some things you look at and you emphasize the right side, and some things you emphasize the left. And he explained it that there's certain things that you look at and you emphasize, you sort of magnify it. If it's positive, those are the kind of things you try to magnify and really make more of an issue out of it. Wow, this person did such an act of kindness and so on and so forth. When you see something negative, you do the opposite. you try to sort of belittle it as much as possible. I mean, we have something called a microscope, something very tiny, and you look at it and it becomes much bigger. If you look at a little mosquito under a microscope, you might think it's a monster from outer space or something, but it's a little tiny thing, and the microscope makes it look big. Imagine this probably is such a device that does the opposite, that you look at it with a certain glass and makes something big look very small. So in a sense, that's why we have a right eye and a left eye. When we see good character traits, when we see good deeds and good acts, we should look with the right eye and emphasize the right side and how beautiful it is, how amazing it is, and sort of make it even bigger than what it is. When we look at something that's negative, we have to play it down as much as we possibly can. Unfortunately, human nature is a little bit the opposite direction. That the negative is, wow, something positive, okay, no big deal. Why would you think would be the reason? Why do people like to find negative traits in another person? Why would the natural reaction be to say, yeah, they're terrible? Before they even do any research, you find anything else?
Feel better about yourself.
What?
To be like, oh, well, like at least I'm better than that. At least I didn't do that.
I think that's the truth. That is the reason that when I see faults in another person, it makes me feel better about myself. Because look at them, look how bad they are. So they say when there are two people standing next to each other and you want to be higher than the other person, there's two ways to do it. One way is climb up on a chair and you're higher than them. But you have to work hard. You have to get a chair, climb up on top, and then you're higher. There's another way. You knock the other person down automatically. You're higher. They're on the floor. So if I put someone else down, I feel better about myself. Let's go to number 3. Number 3 is a very interesting statement in the Gemara. Kol ha-posel v'mume posel. Whoever sees faults in other people, they usually, what they're seeing is their own faults. I guess it means, generally speaking, when they somehow see the same fault, they're always, whoever they look at this person is arrogant, or they look at this person is selfish, any kind of fault, and they always happen to find this in other people. Usually that's their own fault, and because they have it, they're projecting it into everybody else that they see. And the person should be aware of it, that just because I see the fault, how do I know that it's me? How do I know that it's them? Maybe it's actually me. In fact, Baal Shem Tov once said something, I'm not sure if it was talked about in the classes, because in the Parsha of Noah, there's actually a big discussion about this. Baal Shem Tov says when people see faults in other people, they're actually looking into a mirror. And when they see the faults, they're actually seeing their own faults. And he says, just like a mirror, why do we need a mirror? Because I can't see what I look like. I can't see what's on my forehead. I can't see what's on my face. So I need a mirror to reflect, and I know what I have. I can't see my own faults because I love myself, and love blinds a person from seeing their own faults. So Hashem arranges that I meet someone else, I see their fault, and then I realize this is my fault and I need to correct it. So very often when people are blaming others and criticizing others, it's really their own fault. I once heard the story that a man came to an ear doctor and he said that my wife, she doesn't hear well. I can't get her to a doctor. She doesn't want to go to a doctor. Maybe you can tell me what can I do to help her? So he says, I can't really advise you unless you know how bad her hearing is. So how can I describe it to you? I'll tell you what to do. When you come home, stand by the door and talk to her. She doesn't hear you, move a little bit closer, and tell me at which point she starts hearing what you say. So I'll get some idea how bad it is. So he comes home, opens the front door, says, hi, I'm home. What's for dinner tonight? No response. He walks in a little bit. Hi, I'm home. What's for dinner tonight? No response. But it's close. Finally gets into the kitchen and says, hi, I'm home. What's for dinner tonight? And she says, for the 6th time, spaghetti and meatballs. So he's the one that had the hearing problem. But what he thought was that she needs to see a doctor. Very often, that is really the case, that we have to examine ourselves. You know the story, the guy was going in a car against the traffic.
Yeah.
This guy's in a car and his wife calls him up and says, Harry, be careful. I heard that there's an idiot on the highway, that he's on the other side of the wrong lane and he's going against all the cars there. He says, one idiot, there are hundreds of them. He was the one that was driving the other side. Anyway. Did any of the teachers talk about this concept, about the mirror? Yeah? Okay, so I'm not going to go into it. Number 5. I'm skipping number 4 for a second. I'll get back to it. Number 5 is a term that's found in halacha, and that is cheshvan b'ksherim, which means that it's considered a negative thing to suspect a person who's an honest person and just without basis accuse them that they did something wrong. And of course, at the time you think, but speculating is one thing, but to actually accuse them and take the liberty to sort of be sure that they really did this wrong and accuse them of doing something wrong, that's against Torah. And it's interesting, one of the greatest Torah scholars in history in the Jewish world is the Rambam, Maimonides. If you ever read the history of the Rambam, when he first began, there was a lot of discussion whether he's really authentic. In fact, some people thought that his writings go against Torah. I mean, today there's not even a question. Everybody knows that he is one of the greatest Torah scholars ever, the first person to write a code of halacha. But at the time, here's not the place to go into the stories, but at the time, there were things that happened that made people think that perhaps he's not doing things consistent with Torah. And people actually said that you're allowed to take his books and burn them. They used to burn his books publicly. And later they realized that it was a huge mistake. But it was based on judging him and accusing him of things which are not really true. One of the biggest bankers in the world in Germany was a Jew by the name of Rothschild. I think they still even have banks with that name. So he was a Jew, Usher Anshel Rothschild, and they say this is the story how he became so wealthy. He used to work for a certain rabbi, help him around the house. And this rabbi was going around the house before Pesach searching for chametz. He searched for chametz, he opens all the closets, opens all the drawers. He had one drawer that he had it on the lock and key, and that's where he kept his money. Opened the drawer, and he opened the drawer to look if there's any chametz there, maybe there's some crumbs there. And he was shocked to find that it's empty. All his life savings was in that drawer. And when he spoke to his wife, she had no idea what happened. And of course, their minds were racing, who took the money? And his wife insisted it must be this young boy because he's the only one who knows really what's going on in the house. And he said, no, he's very honest. I won't accuse him. But she kept on nagging him, talk to him. I'm telling you it's him. And finally, he confronted him and said, we're missing so many thousands of ruble. And you're really the only one in the house that could have done this. And he started to cry. And he said, I'll pay everything back. Just give me time, I'll pay it back slowly. And of course, he left the house, he went to another city, but he paid every month, he would send them money. One day, a few months later, the police came to his house and they asked him to come to the police station. What happened in the police station? Who did he see there? He saw the bartender, a woman that's a cleaning lady. And what happened was that the bartender came to the police to say that there was a guy in the bar that was buying drinks for everybody. And they asked him, when did you become so rich? And he was drunk. So he said his wife works in the rabbi's house and she found this money and now he's very wealthy. So he reported to the police. And the police, challenged him, confronted him, and he actually took them to the place where they buried the money in the ground near a tree. And it turns out that she was the one who stole the money. Of course, he was very happy to have the money, but he was devastated when he realized that he accused this young boy for no reason. And then when he took upon himself to pay back the money, was simply just because he didn't want to argue with this rabbi, and he didn't want him to feel that he had such a big loss, but he really was not guilty of what. So he traveled to that city, and he came to him, and he cried to him, and he begged him for forgiveness. And he's the one who gave him the bracha that because of what you did, I am blessing you that you should become very wealthy. And that's what happened. From that bracha, he became a wealthy banker, and his children and grandchildren for many generations became very big bankers. That's called cheshvan b'ksherim, to accuse somebody when they're really kosher, when they're really not guilty, and accuse them of being guilty. So unfortunately, people's mouths run very loose, just say things. You have a thought in your head, why not mention it to someone? But it's a very serious thing. They're not allowed to accuse somebody of things if there's no real true basis that they actually did it. On the other hand, there's an interesting halacha, which is number 6 and 7. And that halacha is, I am not allowed to do something which would make people suspect me of doing something wrong. In other words, I'm doing something that I know is okay, but on the outside, it looks suspicious. So I might say, listen, people are told, don't accuse others without basis. So I can do whatever I want. The fact that it'll be misleading to them, that's their problem, not my problem. For example, you go into a non-kosher restaurant and you sit down by the table and you're drinking a Coke. In essence, you're not doing anything wrong. But someone who sees you there is thinking that you're drinking and eating food that's not kosher. Are you allowed to do that or not? So there's a concept in Torah, you have it here in number 7, it's called maras ayin, which means we judge by the way it appears to the eye. I'm not allowed to do something that appears to other people as if I'm doing something wrong. So both halachas exist at the same time. On one hand, I'm not allowed to accuse someone that they're doing something wrong. On the other hand, people have to be careful to act in a way that what they do shouldn't lend suspicion. I don't have to do things that are not regular, but not to do something if I know that normally this would make me look suspicious. And that's what it means. Number 6, the Use of Nakeem is another term. Remember, I told you I'm only using terms that are found in Gemara. You should be clean. In this context, it means your name should be clean. Your image should be clean. Don't do things and say to yourself, listen, I'm doing what's right. The fact that it might make them have a bad opinion of me, that's their problem. No, I have to act in a way that I'm presenting myself and my image in a clean way. The mistake sometimes people make is, okay, so I'm not supposed to suspect anyone, accuse anyone. So here comes the same question we spoke about the other day. Someone knocks on my door and says, hi, you never saw this person before. You have no idea who they are, where they're from. Can I stay in your house overnight? If you let them in, it's a nice act of kindness, but you have no idea who this person is. He might be a thief. He might even be a murderer. If you don't let him in, that means you're accusing him of being a bad person. You don't even know who he is. So first of all, let me tell you the halacha, don't let him in. No, if it's someone you don't know, you don't let them in. But this is what this term means. Number 4, is also in Gemara. Kabdeyu v'chashdeyu means honor him, but be cautious. I'm supposed to honor every person, but someone who I don't know and have no background on this person, I should be cautious. We have to be practical and use common sense as well. Definitely, I'm not allowed to say to the person, I suspect you're this or that. But for myself, if you're lending somebody money, you're allowing someone in your house, you're a child, you're going to give this person to your child to take care of them, you have to know who they are before you do anything like that. Even though you're not supposed to suspect, but you still have to know the facts. So let's remember again, judging people favorably doesn't mean to say that I have to become blind and not know the facts. even though I know the fact that this person is capable of doing something wrong, I'm not judging them. I'm not hating them. I'm not angry at them. I understand what they're going through. And if anything, I pray for them or I feel compassion for them. But it still doesn't change the fact that they are maybe dangerous or they are a person that it could be a criminal. So the two things don't contradict each other. You follow that? Yeah. Okay, to be continued.
Can we say don't be naive?
Don't be naive, right? Yeah, that's what it means, right? You have to be practical, yes.
This is very profound. So act like this at the end, when you join all this
This is
together,
life, yeah. This is life.
super challenge.
Yeah.
Because you catch yourself doing a lot of
Yeah.
judgments.
This is a very important part of what we need to learn.
You have to practice every single one.
Yes. So you're gonna come downstairs now?
Did you end up figuring out to stay in the
Not yet.
Do you know?
My daughter, this and that. And then after that, Brazil. So I'll see. Now I have to see what I can find.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
But tomorrow we are here.
Yeah, this morning was so deep.
Yeah.